3 subtle signs women find you more attractive than you realize. Most men are walking through life completely blind to something happening right in front of them. Not because they're unintelligent, not because they're unobservant, but because no one ever taught them what to actually look for. Attraction, real attraction, is almost never announced. It is whispered. It is tucked inside a glance that lingers half a second too long. A laugh that comes a little too easily. A body that turns toward you without its owner even realizing it has moved. Women are extraordinarily fluent in this language. Men, for the most part, are not even aware the conversation is happening. And the cruelest part, the signals are almost always there. The interest is almost always present. But the man who doesn't know how to read it walks away thinking he made no impression at all, while she watches him leave and wonders why he never said anything. This is not about manipulation. It is not about tactics or games. It is about becoming literate in a language that has been spoken around you your entire life. Because here's what the research and centuries of human nature consistently reveal. Attraction is not just felt, it is communicated, constantly, through channels most men have never been shown. Today, we're going to show you 3 of them, not the obvious ones. Not the ones every article recycles, the subtle ones, the ones hiding in plain sight, in ordinary conversations, in rooms you've already been in. Pay attention, because someone, somewhere, has already been sending you these signals, and you may not have noticed. Sign 1. She creates reasons to keep the interaction going. Most people end conversations when the natural conclusion arrives. There is a moment, you both feel it, when everything that needed to be said has been said, when the exchange has reached its organic close. When walking away would be perfectly normal and entirely acceptable. Watch what she does in that moment. A woman who feels nothing lets that moment arrive and departs through it comfortably. She says goodbye, turns, and that is the end of it. Clean, simple, closed. A woman who is attracted to you does something different, something small enough that most men miss it entirely. She finds a reason to stay, not dramatically, not obviously. She introduces a new thread of conversation just as the old one ends. She asks a question she almost certainly doesn't need answered. She remembers something conveniently, perfectly timed that she forgot to mention earlier. Psychologists call this asterisk conversation prolonging behavior asterisk. And it is one of the most consistent and reliable indicators of genuine interest documented in attraction research. The reason it works as a signal is precisely because it is effortful. Ending a conversation requires nothing. Extending one requires intention, and people do not spend that intention on someone they do not want to remain near. Pay attention not just to how a conversation begins, but to how it tries to end. If it keeps finding new reasons not to, if every goodbye sprouts a new topic, a new question, one more thing, that is not coincidence. That is someone who is not ready to stop being near you and cannot quite bring herself to say so directly. There is also a digital version of this signal that is even easier to read. Because the timestamps don't lie, when she responds to your message with an answer, and then immediately adds another question, another observation, another thread, she is doing the same thing. She is keeping the door open because she does not want it to close. The message could have ended with the reply, She chose to make sure it didn't. The man who understands this signal stops interpreting prolonged conversations as politeness and starts recognizing them for what they are, an invitation. Offered quietly, waiting to be accepted. Sign 2. Her body orients towards you without her realizing it. The body is the most honest communicator a human being possesses, and because unlike words, which can be chosen and edited and performed, the body operates largely beneath the level of conscious control. It responds to the truth of what a person feels before that person has finished deciding what to say. Attraction is not just an emotion, it is a physiological event, and it produces predictable, measurable, largely involuntary physical responses. Responses that researchers in nonverbal communication have been cataloging and studying for decades. The most significant of these, and the most consistently overlooked by men, is orientation. When a woman is genuinely attracted to someone, her body begins to point toward them. Not in an exaggerated, theatrical way, in a quiet, gravitational way, as if something invisible is pulling her just slightly in your direction, her feet, which behavioral scientists consider among the most honest indicators of genuine interest. Precisely because they are the body part people think about least, will angle toward you in a group conversation. Her shoulders will open, her torso will face you even when her head turns away to address someone else. Notice, by contrast, what the body does with someone it is indifferent to. It remains neutral. It points toward exits, toward other people, toward the general room. The feet stay flat or shift away. There is a subtle but unmistakable closing asterisk of the physical orientation, the posture that says, politely and without words, I am elsewhere. There is another layer to this that goes even deeper. When attraction is present, a woman's physical space begins to shrink toward yours, not aggressively, incrementally. She stands slightly closer than the social norm requires. She leans forward when she speaks to you in a way she does not lean forward with others. She finds excuses for proximity, adjusting something near you, reaching past you, positioning herself in your orbit when the geometry of the room offered her no particular reason to be there. The body does not lie. And it does not perform attraction. It does not feel. If her body is consistently orienting toward yours, it is because something in her is drawn to you, and that something has not yet decided whether to say so out loud. Sign 3. She remembers the details you never expected her to remember. This is the subtlest of the 3 signals, and in many ways the most telling. Because it requires not just a moment of attention, but a sustained investment of mental real estate that people reserve, almost exclusively, for what matters to them. Think about how memory actually works. You do not remember everything you hear. You cannot. Your brain is constantly receiving more information than it can process, so it makes choices, largely unconscious ones, about what to retain and what to release. The filtering mechanism it uses is, at its core, emotional relevance. You remember what you care about. You remember the details attached to people and things that carry weight in your inner world. When a woman remembers something you mentioned, in passing, something small, something unremarkable, something you mentioned once in a conversation 3 weeks ago and promptly forgot you'd said, she is revealing something significant. She is revealing that her brain decided that detail was worth keeping. And her brain made that decision because you are worth keeping track of. She remembers the name of your sister. She references a frustration you mentioned about your job. In a casual aside to conversations ago, she asks how the thing went, the project, the interview, the difficult family dinner that you mentioned only briefly, that you did not expect anyone to hold on to. She brings up a preference of yours, a food you don't like, a place you want to visit, a thing that made you laugh, at a moment when you have completely forgotten you ever shared it. Men often interpret this as simply attentiveness or good social skills. And sometimes, in other contexts, it is, but there is a quality to the remembering that distinguishes genuine interest from polite attentiveness, the specificity and intimacy. A warmth in the retrieval that signals this information was not stored in the professional part of her brain where she keeps names and facts. It was stored in the personal part, the part that keeps people. The man who notices this does not dismiss it as small talk. He understands it for what it is, a quiet announcement that you have taken up residence in someone's thoughts. And that is one of the most genuinely flattering things another person can do for you, without ever using a single word that could be called a confession. 3 signals, none of them loud. None of them obvious, all of them honest. The conversations that keep finding reasons not to end. The body that turns toward you without being asked. The memory that holds your details long after you've forgotten you shared them. These are not tricks of interpretation. They are the vocabulary of a language that human beings have been speaking since long before words existed, a language written in attention, in proximity, in the quiet persistence of someone who is interested but not yet certain you are too. Here is what this knowledge asks of you, not tactics, not games, not a system for exploiting signals, just presence, just the willingness to actually see what is already being shown to you. The signals are already there. They have been there, in the extended goodbye, in the turned shoulder, in the small remembered detail that she had absolutely no reason to hold on to, except that she wanted to. Someone is already paying attention to you in ways you have not yet noticed. The only question is whether you are ready to notice back.